Hey, are you ready to grow your business? You have checked out the number one resource for business leaders, entrepreneurs, startup founders, and managers. And we're going to teach you how to grow and scale your business with real actionable steps. There's no fluff in this podcast. It's just good advice. Check out this episode. If you're a first-time listener, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. And if you enjoy this episode, leave us a 5-star review. Today's episode is with Dave LaGue, who's the Director of Sales and Marketing at Advisors Excel. You know, on the podcast, I got to give you a real honest perspective on sales and marketing, which if you look at social media, if you look at a lot of different platforms, you'll see that there is a heck of a lot of bad advice when it comes to building up your sales pipeline, when it comes to meeting and talking with customers. I loved getting Dave on the podcast because he gave a real honest, authentic perspective on sales. He's talking out of experience, and it was so good to hear his story. You're going to love this episode. Stay tuned. Here comes your good advice. Hey, thanks for checking out another episode of the Good Advice Podcast. We're going to be talking some sales today. In fact, we're going to talk about some sales fails. I'm sitting down with my friend, I almost said like my brother, because I was like, we've known each other a long time, so you're kind of like a brother, but you're not legally a brother. You're actually like, I guess, a cousin-in-law or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Someone I've known for, oh my gosh, man, I think over 10 years. It's been a long time that I've known you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sitting down with Dave LaGue. He is the Director of Sales and Marketing at Advisors Excel. If you're not familiar with Advisors Excel, you're going to love this tagline. Not all unicorns live in Silicon Valley. I guess it's not really the tagline. It's just something said about you guys. But Advisors Excel, it's a $6 billion marketing company that works with financial advisors all across the globe. They're an amazing company. We're going to be talking more about them in detail later on in the episode. But Dave, man, I am so excited to have you here today. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Blake. Thanks for having me. I'm excited, man. It's going to be fun to have a conversation here today.
Well, it's great because like you and I, we were chatting. Obviously you've been in sales, you understand sales. We jumped on the phone, I guess it was maybe a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And we just started swapping these stories on like these horror stories on sales. And it's just so wild to me how people don't understand sales and like some of the things that they do. But so we were sharing some stories and I was like, oh my gosh, like some of these insights are so powerful. I got to get you on the podcast because sales feels like, especially for the new business owner, especially for the young business owner. And when I say young, I don't mean like age young, but like new in their business, new in their industry. It feels like sales, cash flow, getting more customers. This is a major pain point. And I think a lot of people are out there thinking like, man, how do I get more customers? How do I get more sales? So yeah. I'm excited to sit down with you and pick your brain and kind of get your style. Before any of that though, what's going on in your world?
I got 3 kids. I have a son that was just born about 3 months ago now. I got 2 girls, so 3 kids under the age of 6, and so we're pretty busy over at our house. And it's a great time. My wife, was a teacher. Now she's at home with the kids, so we have a great time. It's real busy. Every time I get home, the kids are sitting on the steps. They run out to my car, and I have to like honk the horn and be like, "Hey, watch out! I'm driving here." But
they're probably like, oh, this is so fun. Dad's honking the horn, and you're like, "Get out of the way!"
I want you to survive. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, you'll really appreciate this because my wife Joy and I, we've had our kid was born in March, so people are like, during the summer, they're like, "Well, how's life? How are things going?" And I'm like, "Well, take all the stress you have with the pandemic, and then add a baby to it." But I can't. I don't know if I can even say that now because not only do you have the newborn, you have the 2 other kids as well. Man, your hands are full, I guess.
Oh, having to, I'm back in the office now, but there was, like most people had to switch to work from home, and I was in the office every day. Even though all my sales and, all the coaching I do is all virtual, switching from the office to being at home with the kids running around was really hard. I'd be on a call like this, and then my door would be behind me, would open up, and my 3-year-old's head would lean in, and I'd just be like, We've seen that viral video of the
Yeah.
guy on CNN. It was like literally that. I'm sure everyone's had to deal with that too. But
Well, I had a call on Sunday, and Joy was out of town. She was at a wedding, so I had a call on Sunday, and I'm talking. I'm doing coaching. I'm like working with these people, and my baby's like losing it, like losing her mind. And so I had to just pick her up and just hold her. And I'm sure some people were like, you're just trying to get dad points. But like, I mean, I didn't know what to do. I was like, I could not do what I was doing because I needed to attend to her. And so I'm like, I'm holding her. And of course, as I'm talking, like I'm talking, she's grabbing on like the earphones and like, banging on them and stuff. And, it's just dad life, it's a great life, but it is something to, I guess, manage a little bit when you're working.
Yeah, you have to embrace the chaos. It's like they are just hardwired to bring chaos, which I guess is part of the world anyway. But it's like, man, why are you doing this?
Yeah,
and they do it with a smile. So
yeah. Well, so man, I'm just I know I said it already. I'm real excited to talk sales today. Before we jump into sales, talk to me a little bit about what's your role, what do you do with Advisors Excel, and maybe just a generic over the top view of exactly what is Advisors Excel.
Yeah, so. I guess to start with what Advisors Excel does, we work with a very small relative group of financial advisors, and they'll do financial business through us, get access to financial products, but really what we do is we help them build their businesses. Kind of the what I tell folks who are looking at us is our mission is to make, because these financial advisors are they're independent business owners. A lot of them are entrepreneurs. A lot of them only been in the business for a few years. Maybe they started it like a company that was they were a staff advisor there, but now they've decided to open up their own totally independent firm. And so we help them go from being a salesperson who's trying to figure out how to start a business to being a real CEO that has a business that brings freedom in their lives. And so we help them with all kinds of, whether it's their sales, marketing, or operations, we help them build out a business that brings them freedom. So I've loved, listening to your podcast and just, I get your newsletter too, Blake. And it's just cool to see, because whether your business is financial advising or, anything, a lot of the best practices translate across industries. And, but what I do is I actually recruit for Advisors Excel. So I'm out there trying to find advisors who I think that we could, help take their business to the next level, take them from being a stressed out salesperson who's, got a lot of they're trying to juggle 100 balls, in the air, to where they're a CEO of a business that actually brings them blessings to their life, helps them be able to spend more time with their family and, just do what they wanted to do when they went into being an entrepreneur. And so there's a lot of ways that happens, but I'm kind of on the recruiting end. So I bring them in, show them the way that the coaches we have here and the resources do that. And it's a lot of fun. It makes it easy to sell when you've got something that you really are passionate about. So that's one thing that, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about that. I mean, it's, and even just, I know people aren't seeing the video, but, you're lit up talking about what you do for a living. So obviously you really love coming to work every day, which not everyone feels that way. Right. But also I think from a sales perspective, I think you've hit a really great nugget. You just said it, you have to believe in what you're selling. Right. And it almost, and again, I don't want to get into like the cliche, the person who's like in some massive corporation who they're in a sales role. They don't even care what they're selling. They're just trying to get the sales in. But I think even like in the entrepreneurial space or the small business space, obviously everyone believes in their product, but I think what's a little bit implied by what you're saying is you have to be excited around what you're bringing to the customer rather than just what it's doing to your bottom line, what it's doing to your cash flow. You have to like really, man, I love what I sell because what it does for the people I'm helping, and not just, I love selling because it makes me, filthy rich, or because I think people get cross in that way sometimes, and maybe it's not that overt where someone's like super greedy or self-serving, but I wonder if we're always like really honed in on, I'm providing something that's genuinely helping the people I'm trying to serve.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, what's the greatest hindrance to any sale? Like whether you're, whatever you're doing, if you're trying to selling is influence, selling is, you're trying to transfer enthusiasm. You're trying to take somebody who's not interested and make them interested. That's sales, right? In any industry. The biggest thing that I think is hardest for me in sales and for the advisors I coach because they're trying to sell to people who they can help with their retirement or help with their financial situation. I mean, rejection is the greatest fear. Rejection is the reason why we don't want to pick up the phone, why we don't want to put ourselves out there, why we don't want to try marketing, and have it flop. We don't want to get rejected. And I think that goes back to, forgive me if I get kind of technical here, but like, if you think of like human beings 40,000 years ago, like at the beginning, and I was just reading this in a book this morning, a book called Objections by Jeb Blount, great book about sales. But he was talking this morning in this part of this book about 40,000 years ago, humans lived in a much more wild world than we live in now, right? You were always out trying to find the next thing to eat. And while you were hunting, you were probably being hunted at the same time, and what mattered the most was being in a community of people that could give you food and keep you safe. And so in that context, if you were rejected, you were quickly removed from the gene pool, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and that, that there's like thousands and thousands of years, that's been happening for humans, and even to this day that's happening. But I think that genetically, our brains are designed to despise rejection. When we're on the phone with somebody and they bring up an objection to, what we're trying to propose, or when we're trying to put out whatever value we're putting out there, and there's rejection coming or an objection coming, our brains respond the same way as if we're in like terminal danger, And so I think that, to kind of go roundabout to what you were saying, Blake, if you have something that is actually helpful to someone, can actually improve their life, I think that's going to help you have more longevity in your sales and have more passion about it, because you have to have some kind of mechanism to get past all the disruptive emotions that come from that fear of rejection. There's so much, we're so afraid of being pushed away from the community, Mm-hmm. But if we know, look, I'm going to take this risk of being rejected because I know this could actually help somebody. For me and for the top people that I work with, they're not just out there, like you said, schmoozing, trying to make some deal happen, just so they can make more money. The best salespeople are doing it really to add value, and it's a win on both sides. Mm-hmm. So,
well, and it's interesting to think, I'm just processing this as I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
I love how you've presented this. It's this passion, it's more than just passion. I mean, this deep belief in what you're selling and knowing the outcomes that it's going to bring to someone. I think that's I love your example here. It's sort of like this mechanism that counteracts all the pain and frustration and struggle that comes with sales. And it makes me think of, and honestly, if people can't move past that rejection, it actually makes me wonder how much they really do believe in their product.
Yeah.
Because I've had salespeople in the past that I've worked with who, I've said, hey, did you follow up on this person? And they're like, well, I emailed them. And I'm like, we'll call them and follow up. I'm like, I think I just want to email them. And I'm kind of like, and I get why they're saying that is because it's softer on them. They don't have to directly embrace the potential for rejection. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, what it communicates to me is you must not really believe in what we're selling deeply enough to be willing to put yourself out there. That's what it communicates to me. Because like you said, it's not even just about avoiding rejection or overcoming rejection. Rejection is guaranteed, I think, in any sales role, in any business role. And unfortunately, in today's world, it's people are so direct and candid on social media that, I mean, they will not just reject you, they will reject you brutally and honestly. I remember I had a guy who, so my business is called Good Advice. He was like, you give bad advice. You just need to disappear. Yeah. And I was like, okay, so you disagree with, you don't want to buy. Got it. But these things they're guaranteed, right? So you have to have that deep belief to sort of counteract that and overcome that, I guess.
Yeah, I think that it's, you'll hear a lot of, what I would call them gurus out there, people trying to, and it's kind of just to tough it out and be like, well, just don't be so weak. It's kind of, no one says that explicitly, but it's kind of this idea of, look, if you really want to be good at sales, you just have to find rejection as fun, and you have to not take it personally. But I would say it's impossible to not take it personally when someone says you give bad advice. Like, that's going to hit you home. What we need, I think, what the best salespeople have is a mechanism where they can take that, accept the feelings it produces naturally, like biologically in your brain, and then have a mechanism for turning that into being able to let your rational brain take over. So you have to accept it. You need a second to pause, and then you have to let your rational brain take over and remind yourselves maybe of some liberating truths. So I think it takes preparation on the front end of knowing you have a good product to sell, knowing that you're a qualified person who's worthy of presenting this value proposition to whoever it is you're selling to. Knowing that you're worthy of doing that, I think is going to make it to where, and also being honest about the way that it sucks when I'm rejected, but I can still do this. I think having that growth mindset about it, and also believing in what you're selling is what separates people from those who succeed and don't.
So how does someone, maybe for someone who's listening right now, who they're energized around this idea, they're thinking, yes, I want to, because we're almost sort of talking about sort of like this, this ability to persevere and like be tenacious, even when you're getting really brutal rejection.
Yeah.
How does someone train that into themselves? How do they become that person who they develop that mechanism where, yes, I'm going to take that criticism. Yes, I'm going to sit in it for a second, but I'm going to move past it. I'm going to get off my rear. I'm going to get back in the game. I mean, is it the people you surround yourself with? Is it a book that you read? I mean, how does someone build that fortitude in sales?
Yeah, Blake, I would say for me, I think I think you have to, on the back end, engineer that motivation. It's like gas in a fuel tank. I think it's all the above. I think sitting down and taking a piece of paper and writing a line down the middle, and on the left-hand column, just listing out all the limiting beliefs that you have. Like, I'm not good at this. I can't, if I interrupt these people's day, they're going to hate me and I'll never be able to do business with them. Even if I get in the conversation and they ask a question I can't answer, it's going to be worthless, all these limiting beliefs. And then on the other column of the paper, write down the liberating truth that would, either discount that or reframe it. I was reading a great book called Your Best Year Ever by a guy named Michael Hyatt. He got a lot of great content out there. He's got podcasts and blogs and everything. But this was an activity in a book I was reading of his this weekend. And I thought, I've got a pretty good mindset. I've had a lot of success in sales, whatever. But I'll do this activity because I like to do the homework when I'm reading a book and there's a little homework piece. I just feel like I want to get the most out of my time in this book, right? So I did it, and I was surprised, Blake, at how many limiting beliefs I had. And so I wrote down all these liberating truths, and within the last, this was this weekend, and today is a Wednesday. Within the last 3 days, I've had to use those liberating truths. I pulled up that list probably 10 to 15 times, as I've been on sales calls and I've been talking to folks. It's crazy. So I think having a good tool in your hand to do it, but I think that you hit it on the head a second ago. Who you surround yourself with decides where you'll go, like all the time. The advisors I see who surround themselves with, I'll see a financial advisor who, is frustrated with their business. They feel really alone. They don't know what they're doing. They know how to do what they do, but they've been doing this forever, and they're just grinding their wheels. They're grinding their gears. Nothing's happening. They're just spinning their wheels is what I meant to say, or grinding their gears. But I got a guy I can think of right now. He that I work with closely. He's an awesome guy. His name's David as well. But he had been in the business for a long time. And then about a year and a half ago, is early 2019, he just started surrounding himself with financial advisors who were, twice as far along as where he was, whose revenue was 10 times where he was at. And he would, throughout the year of 2019, I think he probably went to 5 or 6 mastermind groups with a bunch of different advisors and just was a sponge. And he like 4 times his revenue from the year before, just by simply surrounding himself with people who were where he wanted to go. And so I think that reading books is great. And I think that, having like tools like that list is a great way to deal with it. But if you're surrounding yourself with people who are just reinforcing your limiting beliefs, I don't see how you grow. I don't see how you could grow in that situation. So
Right. Something else I want to ask you about. You're talking about getting difficult feedback. Obviously it's interesting. And this, the reason I'm thinking of this is, you have the people in your life who you surround yourself who are encouraging and they're like, you can do it. You're awesome.
Yeah.
And then you have people in your life who they give you sort of those hard truths. and they say, you say, for example, man, yeah, this customer, said that my product was junk. And then you have like that friend who's like, man, I've actually bought your product and it kind of is junk. Like to have those people in your life who can be really honest with you and not just, because a lot of times we think about people, when we talk about people in your corner, people in your life, we think about like encouragers. Like, my mom is like all about what I'm doing. And like, everyone loves their mom. Your mom loves you. It's awesome. you don't only need your mom. You need these people who give you that honest feedback, and not even just people you surround yourself with. I think also dealing with hard rejection from a customer. And it's another reason why we have to seek this out, is because more often than not, growing a business is an iterative process of like refining your product. And I think about, I had a guy I was selling to, and I was selling a coaching agreement to him. And he was trying to move up to a C-suite role in his company. And we were trying to work out this coaching agreement. And we got to the point of the sale where I was pitching him. And he said, I'm going to have to think about it. And what I said in return was, because I'm very direct myself, I said, well, typically when someone says they have to think about it, that typically means no. And usually the reason they're thinking no, it's either price or it's because they don't think it's really that valuable. So can I ask you which one it is? And because I really wanted to know. And he goes, well, I can tell you it's not price. And so I was like, ouch. And I asked him, right? But I remember feeling it was like a punch to the gut. And so, but getting that feedback, it's less about like, forget the haters and like, I'm awesome. And it's more about, man, if I really want to grow my business, okay, that was a point of feedback. And now I need to dig into that and think about, okay, what is it? Is it a marketing problem? Is it a phrasing problem? Is it like content? Like, what is it about my business that's not actually communicating the value I want it to? And if I want to grow my business, that's something I need to fix. And so in some ways, I feel like we have to seek out this rejection because it's how, to be cliche, it's how we get better,
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it's the difference between a cheerleader and a coach. A cheerleader is going to say, all right, go, put the ball in the hoop. Just keep, go down the field and put the ball in the hoop. But, and you got it. Just keep doing the good stuff you do, and that's like a cheerleader. That's like someone cheering in the crowd. Versus a coach is going to like come alongside you, and it's going to be a part of the process. It's not just go do it. It's going to say, well, let's look at this plan and this strategy and this thing, and they'll try it, and then they'll go to practice after the game and be like, well, no, okay, that didn't work. Let's pivot to this and that and this and that. And I think that one thing that's true is you want to find people in your life who can be honest with you like that, and but also people that aren't going to just shut you down and have basically give you limiting beliefs, like you want to have it's you got to find your right people. You got to pick your mentors in a good way. One thing that I've done here, and I got this from, when I started here, I was listening to the Zig Ziglar book. Zig Ziglar's like old school sales guy, and he would go into people's house selling pots and pans and stuff. But one thing that Zig Ziglar would do, and he said, this is one of the things that generated, my growth dramatically, was he would bring a tape recorder, and whether, regardless of the legality of this, of people being recorded against their knowledge, he would go in there and he'd record the sales conversation with people, and then he'd immediately replay it.
Yeah.
And I was listening to a podcast with Kobe Bryant, the late Kobe Bryant. I was listening to this podcast probably a couple months ago. It was a couple years old, but Kobe watched the tape of almost every game he played, and I'm sure he did not watch the tape alone. Most of the time, And so one thing I've done here in my role is we're recording a Zoom call for this podcast. If I'm on a Zoom call with a prospective advisor to work with us, I'll record it. And if it goes poorly, I reach out to the other, marketing coaches here at Advisors Excel, and I'll be like, all right, we'll get in the conference room together, and I'll play the recording. And it stings, man. It is not fun, but I have not seen a faster way for me to learn to improve just all the different things that happen in a sales conversation, besides to be vulnerable like that.
Here's an interesting twist to this conversation is, you're the director of sales and marketing, and it's just interesting the vulnerability you're talking about, the example you're setting as a leader in your business of, because here's how this goes a lot of times is, someone in a director role, VP role, SVP role, what have you, they put out some kind of generic statement of, hey, we need to be getting better, we need to be doing better. And it's very top down. And it's things like, I'm going to be reviewing all of your recordings and all of your tapes. And so as like a random salesperson, it's like, well, crud, now I'm under the magnifying glass from my manager, my boss, what have you. I like how you've kind of flipped it on its head in the sense of, hey, I'm putting myself out there. I imagine that does a lot for the culture inside of Advisors Excel as well. And just in terms of even like collaborative nature of things.
Well, I'm everything I have, I think, was given by someone else. I mean, there's not really, I don't think there's a lot of new ideas under the sun. So I think that perhaps, yeah, that could help with the culture. But honestly, I know I have so much to gain from anybody else, who's in there, even from myself. Like, even if I just played back the call and I was the only one listening, there would be probably 10 things I can get out of it and be like, oh, I can do that better next time. And you're gonna speed your growth by just listening to yourself over and over again. So if someone has a sales call and they're going to be on a speakerphone, maybe pop up a recording app on an iPad or something and record it, just so you can do your own little call review afterwards. I think that, for anybody listening, reviewing those conversations is, I can't think of a faster way to scale your growth, or a more uncomfortable way. But the thing is, you're going to reduce the amount of pain you're going to have going forward because you're dealing with it right away. Mm-hmm. I think that if anyone's in sales, whether they're a director or a entry level person, I think the salespeople who succeed the most are people who see themselves as their own CEO. They have that ownership mindset. And so, I try to carry that into my role, and there are others that do it as well. But those call reviews is really not me trying to, in a roundabout way, tell people to do do their own call reviews or have their own vulnerability. I think it's just, hopefully it just helps everyone see, if you're going to succeed, you've got to own it yourself. You can't blame other people for your sales success, or you can't blame the economy or whatever. It's, the world is what you make of it. That's one of the great things about sales, I think. But it's also one of the most stressful things, just because it's hard. It's difficult.
Yeah, and I think it's hard too when, you and I both know this, when it takes time to build trust with someone. It takes time to move someone along that sales process to them being ready to buy. And I don't know if the average salesperson today, I don't want to say is not cut out for sales. I don't know if they have the patience for sales. And I'd say the same thing about business ownership or entrepreneurship or what have you. I don't know if the average person has the patience to really grow a business, because you and I both know that sometimes it takes months. Sometimes it even takes year plus to land that really big client, because it does take time to build trust. But today's social media culture is inundated with people who are trying to sell on the first. It's like, hi, I'm Blake. Hey, would you like to buy this from me? And it's like, what? What's your company? Like, what do you do? Like, yeah, that's kind of become the norm now. I mean, think about the LinkedIn DMs. Think about, I don't ever really get it on Facebook, but people call themselves as being in a sales role, but they don't seem to understand sales. And I don't mean that cynically, but here's a great example. And you saw me post about this on LinkedIn. I had a woman who reached out and her title was director of sales. And so you'd think this person probably knows a lot about sales. And she said, hey, Blake, so my company's name is Good Advice. That's all it is, just Good Advice. So she reaches out and says, hey, Blake, I'd love to talk about helping you and why my product would be the perfect fit for your business. Not Good Advice. Your business, Good Gear Hockey, which you got one word right. I don't know where the rest came from, but your business, Good Gear Hockey. And of course, there's a long paragraph. And then there's like, hey, the implied, like, hey, is Tuesday better? Or when do you have time for a call or whatever? But I'm reading this and I'm like, this person is a director of sales and clearly does not understand anything about sales, because she's ignored the number one principle of sales, which is like, exert like the smallest bit of effort in getting to know your prospective customer. But I'm not frustrated at that person, but I'm also not surprised. It feels like that is the norm in today's sales world. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I think that, obviously, 20 seconds on your LinkedIn page, you'd know that's just completely off topic, but I think I was laughing as you were saying that. I remembered an email I got probably a week and a half ago that was, I don't even know what the guy was selling, Blake. It was something like it was so complicated. It was some tech thing. And it was just so many different, just like acronyms of things, like is your, CY, M and D, just all these different things. And I remember, and he just was at the end, like, I'm excited to talk. Let's talk Thursday at 2 or something like that. And I just was like, what are you even, I'm so confused, and I get emails like this all the time. And I think, how does this person even have success doing this? Because I would imagine that everyone who gets emails like that don't really see it as helpful. They're not feeling like special at all. One thing that, I think first of all, people are not going to buy, or at least not going to have long-term success in sales if people don't trust you, if they don't like you, and if the trust and the like, and see you as an authority, first of all, but also feel like that you understand them. I think those are all key things for any sale to go well. Is you have to start by listening. There was an outside industry person that I was talking to about sales, and he was talking about he was bringing on a potential client, and he had a discovery meeting with them. And this is somebody that I work with, just for my own personal development. But he was talking about how he was, bringing on somebody for his coaching and his stuff that he does. And he had a whole 2-hour discovery call with this person. And he just got the person talking. Like the person was one of those talkers, right? And he just asked him a couple questions. The person just talked, he asked him another question. And the whole conversation, he accidentally filled up the whole time with that person just talking. And at the end, he's like, well, I better set up another call so he can know, more about the services I offer. And at the end, the guy was just like, okay, so I want to work with you. Can I do the contracting now and everything? And all the guy does is talk. He hadn't learned really anything besides the base level stuff about this guy's company. And I've seen that with advisors I work with. I've just simply been a listening ear, and I feel like that has been 90% of the legwork of them wanting to work with Advisors Excel. And Advisors Excel does help people, and there's a lot of features and everything they offer. But I think first and foremost, people feel more lonely now than ever. I would say, especially after the, COVID-19 and everything, people feel so lonely. If you can be a legitimate listening ear and actually understand what it is that your potential client is dealing with, I think you'll beat 90% of your competition. So when I see those emails come in, I'm kind of like, that's pretty good. I'm glad that most other people are trying to do sales this way. That makes my job easier. All I have to do is just be a human being. And I've done 90% of the work.
I love that. Yeah. So, I put out an article that was I think it was called, here's a sales hack. Cause everyone's talking about sales hacks. Like what's the trick? What's the latest thing you can do? Sure. And I just said, try being human. Just try being a normal person. And your story is so funny to me because I was on a sales call, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. This guy was trying to sell me on something, and it was about an hour-long sales call. Dave, I think I maybe got 4 words in, and he was selling to me. And literally the entire time was talking about how awesome his product was, how great things were. And then finally he ended it with, I think this would be really good for your business. And I thought to myself, I was like, what would you know about what's good for my business? I haven't talked about my business. You didn't ask me about my business. You don't know what goals I have or things that I'm working on because you didn't ask, right? And so it's almost like if people can flip the roles a little bit and exactly what you're saying, be that listening ear, but that person who adds clarity and asks good questions. And I love what you said too. It's like, man, it's almost great these other people are doing it this way because, it gives us that much more of a leg up, I guess.
It does. So you can look at it like that. I think, and also in our culture today, people don't trust salespeople. I know I don't. If I got somebody knocking on my door selling whatever it is, I immediately think my guard goes up. Even though I'm in the sales profession, if anyone approaches me and is wanting to, sell something, I immediately am positioned to know in my head, and so if you approach someone and they're automatically having this negative bias, if you throw people off when you legitimately care, and this goes back to the very beginning, if you have something you legitimately think you can help them with, then the first thing you'll want to do is get to understand them better. And so if you come at it and you're not just asking cheesy questions that are getting them to where they'll say the right thing so you can pitch, but you're just really trying to understand who they are and what they really want out of this part of their life, which is what they do 9 to 5 or whatever it is that you're selling to. If you really can understand your customer, your potential customer, I mean, that's I think all it takes to be great in sales. And there's you want to use the right words, you want to use the right positioning. You don't want to, if an objection comes, you want to respond to it in the right way and all that stuff. Yes. But if you really understand your potential client, if you just, and you open up the conversation with them that way, you're going to, first of all, they're not going to see you as a salesperson. They're going to see you as like a consultant. I had a great sales coach tell me this once, Blake. It was like, when you're in there with the person that you're wanting to convince to work with you, instead of being like the used car salesman trying to show them all the great things about this car they want to buy, pretend that you're like a doctor, and they're sitting on the crunchy table, the crunchy paper on the table. They're sitting there, and you're sitting in the chair next to them, and they're saying something like, my shoulder is really hurting. Don't be the doctor that says, okay, I'll get you some pain meds. Here you go. Throw it at you. Be the doctor that says, the doctor would say, well, what have you done with your shoulder recently? I mean, have you been playing softball? Or did you fall down recently? Have you had any accidents? And you'd answer that question and say, what's your diet been like? They'll ask all kinds of questions. And then a good doctor will really know exactly what's wrong. And they might prescribe a certain type of physical therapy or something like that. And then that person's going to actually get better because of it. Mm-hmm. If you see, I think a good salesperson operates a lot like a very good doctor who really, I remember one time I went to the doctor and I had, I forget what was going on. My foot was hurting. I went to the foot doctor. I was running, and every time I finished running, I would I could barely walk after I ran. I was like, what is going on? So I went to the doctor, and I wanted him to just get me like insoles that would help my feet. And he just asked like 100 questions, and I was kind of annoyed. But at the end of the day, he found I had this genetic disorder where I actually needed surgery on my foot. And now I'm in physical therapy to where I can keep running, and I'll be able to run till I'm, late in life, because I actually, instead of just him giving me this quick fix, the guy took like the time to ask me all these questions. And so that's what I would want from anyone selling me something. I'd want someone to actually know me. And I think everyone wants that. So.
Well, and it goes back to what you said earlier. I mean, if we're in the business of genuinely, we really believe in our product because of what it does for our customers, then it's less about like reprogramming what do I say and how do I say it, and it's more about I'm going to do those things and have that patience because I really do want that permanent solution. I don't want to be just another product that someone buys and they buy 8 more of me before they finally find the answer.
Yeah,
I want to be the answer, but it has to take that time and energy, I think, to get there. Dave, we are unfortunately out of time already. What can people do to learn more about you, to check in with you, to connect with you? What's the best way?
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love that. It's just Dave and then LaGue, LAGUE. And I'm at Advisors Excel. I'm sure you can find me on there. And if you're curious about Advisors Excel, it's just advisorsexcel.com. So thanks for having me on, Blake. It's been really great. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, Dave, we appreciate it. Thanks for joining today.
Yeah, man. Have a good one. Bye.
For our listeners, hey, I will put the link to Dave's bio, to his LinkedIn, down in the episode description below. I'm also going to put a link to advisorsexcel.com down in the episode description below. Definitely check them out. I've actually mentioned them a couple of times in terms of businesses that do leadership and culture really well. So even if you aren't a financial advisor, it'd be great just to check out and learn more about that business. Hey, if you're a first-time listener to the podcast, what the heck are you waiting on? Click that subscribe button so you can keep getting good advice wherever you are. And if you enjoy this episode, leave us a 5-star review. It really helps us to continue to bring good advice everywhere we want people to see us and hear about us. Other than that, thanks so much for listening. We appreciate all of your support. Take care and have a great day.